Hello and welcome, everybody. Happy Monday. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces with us, as well as some newbies. Always good to see new faces in our audience today. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name's Maria Marquis, and here at Coda, I focus on education, empowerment, enablement, and just in general, like celebrating all of the awesome people who are building docs with Coda. And this is one of our webinar series we call Maker Stories, where we sit down with a brilliant human being who's made a really fun Coda doc, talk through the building process, how they put it together, and really like what was the thinking behind this doc. Now, lucky for all of you, I'm joined by the fabulous SiNing Chan, and we're going to be talking about the learning and development docs that she has made as she started to really figure out how to make her craft something that can follow her from place to place and be able to build training in environments where maybe you don't have a ton of resources, but you got a big job ahead of you. So SiNing, do you want to just introduce yourself to the group today so they can learn a little bit more about you?
Sure. I'm a learning experience designer. I worked in tech primarily and in various roles like training, instructional design, program management, and just love finding tools and gadgets to help people do stuff better and faster. Can't be great for tech and work, but maybe annoying to my family because it's like they have to put up with my latest idea for how to clean the dishwasher out and do the laundry. But I'm just always looking for ways to
I love that.
to do stuff better and faster.
I need you to come over to my place and figure out my dish laundry problem. I need that optimized.
I'm happy to do that.
Beautiful. Excellent. We'll give your family a break.
Okay.
Also, if any of you have not attended one of our crowdcasts before, just a little bit of orientation so everybody knows how to get what they need out of today's session. There's no such thing as an interruption in these. We want to hear from you. So if you've got questions or ideas or emotional outbursts, please feel free, let us know. We've got the chat over there on the right side of the screen. You can always use that to post things that are on your mind. I'll also be posting the links to the various templates that we'll be talking about today. But if you have a question, the best way to make sure that we get it, we answer it, is right below SiNing in my face. You can see that there's a little ask a question area. If you click on that, that's going to allow you to log it there. You can also upvote and downvote questions. So if you have the same question, let us know. That's going to be the way that SiNing and I will make sure that we answer everything and anything that might be on your mind. So just know that that's there for you at any given time. So SiNing is an overachiever. And she actually has 3 docs, all part of kind of learning and development. And I really think it's interesting to see how all of them come together. So SiNing, do you want to go ahead and share your screen? We'll take a look at
sure.
number 1. Yeah. And in the meantime, I'm just going to grab a link to it. What I love about this doc that SiNing has made is this is great for any of you who are sort of realizing, oh no, we need to educate our people, either internal or our customers, but maybe we don't have a big budget, or maybe we don't have a ton of time, or maybe we don't have either of those. But this one's really built to make sure you build something excellent and great. So SiNing, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of the problem that you were seeking to solve, the story behind this doc, if you will?
Sure. So the first one that we're looking at is the Scrappy Training Starter Kit. And after COVID-19 hit, in my last job, our organization actually, they were using a video platform for learning. And there was sort of this race going on to see how many people can watch, the most videos. And there was like a leaderboard and everything. And so they're trying to make it fun. And I thought to myself, that's great, binge watching videos and learning and feeling like you're learning a ton of stuff. And, oh, that was a great video and all. But I don't know, coming from a learning background, I just think that you need to make things stick. You have to engage with other people. You have to discuss and all of that. And so we created something with Coda called, it was like your own starter kit for creating a learning group or growth group. And so it was trying to get people to just form their own groups. So very grassroots, taking the Coda doc and forming a group, and then picking a video that they would watch, and then they would watch together, and then giving them discussion questions and things like that. So after I left that job, I thought, hey, this might be something that other people might, want to use, except, maybe they can learn from whatever, maybe someone says, hey, there's this great podcast series I'm listening to, or this great article, and hey, let's get together and learn. And especially in this virtual environment, it's nice to know how to get started. And so I created this Scrappy Training Starter Kit for anyone who wants to start sort of a simple training program just based on stuff that already exists.
And what I love about what you put together, which just kind of popped for me, which didn't pop before, is that this is something that any group of people could use to learn something new, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily have to be just in the corporate world, but like,
Right.
hey, maybe my friends and I want to, or maybe my family wants to do something, or
Yeah.
maybe just, hey, random people, I'm thinking about learning. Do you want to join in? And I love that it seems really flexible like that, how you've put it together. Cool.
Kind of like a book club, maybe even like a, you know, like if you're like, oh, there's this great book, you want to read it with me.
For
So
sure.
it'd be a great way to start.
Yeah. And I also love that you're thinking about, you know, how do we make sure that we're not just driving for a metric, like, hey, let's just get this number, but that the metric actually means something. That as obviously as an L&D person, that seems to be the thing that makes the most sense. So do you want to kind of walk us through how this doc is put together, SiNing?
Sure. So when you first come to the Scrappy Training Starter Kit, you see this beautiful banner and all that. But because I have edit rights, I'm going to take you in behind the scenes. And so what it looks like after you make a copy, you just have a quick introduction, like all the Coda docs have. And there's a little overview. These are the 4 steps. They're also here.
And those are just links to the pages, right, SiNing?
Yeah, these are just links to the pages. And just introducing to you, what is this thing about? And like you mentioned, I created some other toolkits. And so it's like, if you want something more in depth, this is where you can go for that. And then as with a lot of the Coda docs, the protocol now is like, okay, I don't want to read all this stuff. I want to dive in. So Coda actually made this new little button. It's so great because now instead of having all these instructions to tell people to go up there and click on the copy doc, there's this really cool, just click here button and you can make a copy for yourself. And it just says start. There's really nothing to it. And then if for those people who are like, wait, I don't really know what this is, I want to find out more, then you can go to the backstory and it's like, why does this exist and what is it based on and all of that. So that's the TLDR.
Yeah, nice. I also love how you've used the table of contents over there on the right side, so to show kind of the development of the thought here. Yeah. Also, good on you for adding the copy doc button. That's like brand new as of Friday.
Oh,
look at you.
Like I told you, I'm always looking for gadgets and things. So when I saw that, I was like, I'm using that.
Awesome. Fantastic. So then it looks like you've got kind of your process over there on the left then. So the different, hey, you want to get started? Here are those 5 simple steps. Cool.
Yeah. And as I mentioned before, the purpose of this is you want to learn with other people, right? So then you can either, navigate from here just because it's nice and pretty, or you could just do it here. It's in a more linear form. And this guide is meant to be followed in a linear fashion. So step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Gotcha.
I know there's people that like to poke around, but it works the best that way. So you form a group. And for all the docs, I like to have a minimalist, decluttered kind of approach to my pages. So also thanks to the Coda feature of collapsible lists, you can, open up and even the instructions to view more. Otherwise, if it's self-explanatory, you're like, invite people. Okay, I'll just start doing that. Add a member. You can do that as well. So there's essentially 3 steps here. You got to invite people. So you make an invitation list. And then you agree on a time to meet. So actually, should I invite you, Maria? Let's see. Let's add you. So
I'm excited to learn.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking Maria would be great because I found this great book called Make It Stick, and I've already talked to her, invited her, and she's confirmed. So once she's confirmed, she's in. What I love about Coda is that there's these little things that you can do, like right when you click on it, you say change color. And so now you know who's in, who's not, and who confirmed and who didn't. And if you really want, you can view a list of all the people that declined, all the people that are going to, agree to start. And then I would share the doc with you, which I think, have I already shared it? I've already shared it with you. And so once you share this with someone, anytime I mention or I mention Maria's name, you would see what I'm telling you or what comment or what I'm asking you. So it's kind of a good way to communicate within the doc as well. So then we'd agree on a time to meet, and I was just trying to
Ooh, I
recreate
love
like a
that.
Calendly in here. So it's just like, these are my preferences. So Maria's in, cool. And so Maria would put in her, I don't know, I don't know if you're on, but so you could like put a couple dates.
I can jump in
So
there.
Fridays are good. Probably lunchtime. No, we don't do
sounds great.
lunchtime. These are great. Right. So then you would put your preferences. And then again, you can see a list of all the preferred days and times. Now, remember I said I like gadgets and things. So you could actually just use something like Doodle or some other tool that makes it easy to schedule. So if you don't want to do it manually, you don't have to. Yeah, and then you schedule a kickoff session, and then I'm just going to move along. So like I said, it's linear. So you can choose your topic. And says, okay, we got all the people we want. And you can, with the outline view here, you can just see it's a quick way to view sort of what's on this page. And so you'll notice there's pre-work. So there's a couple things you need to do before you actually kick things off. And this is what I love about Coda, because you can solicit topics before you even meet. So, people are busy. So instead of let's meet to talk about topics and vote on them.
Yes, a meeting for a meeting.
Right. And we could use less Zoom meetings. So, you just send this off and you say, hey guys, actually, can you start suggesting some topics? You just got a new one. And so this could be, Make It Stick. It's one of my favorite learning books. So then everyone would recommend different things and why they think it's great. And then it walks you through an area where you'd maybe stick some links in there, because we don't want to forget about it. As people are thinking of great resources or books, might as well put that link to Amazon or whatever so that we can refer to it later. And then I also give some ideas like, okay, don't know where to go. It's like you have a group of friends, you just want to learn together. And you want to develop professionally, and you don't know where to start. You don't know what books there might be. So then I just give you some ideas on free resources and great resources to start with.
I love that, because so often, the great thing about the internet is that everything is at our fingertips. But the bad thing about the internet is everything's at our fingertips. It's like, what's the right stuff? What's going to be good? Are we going to like it? So getting kind of a learning and development person's kind of top 10 here allows you to make sure that you're at least starting in a place where you're going to find something high quality. Or if you're just trying to I know I need to learn. I'm just not sure what or how. Yeah, cool. I do love jonna.com. Yes.
I do. Oh, it's great.
Big fan.
And then, the usual. So y'all when you do kick off the session, I mean, I'm pretty literal about this. I'm just hand holding. It's like, I don't know where to start. I've never formed a group. So it's like, okay, start with some intros. You could say this.
Just copy paste. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
And then, okay, let's vote. And you can, since a lot of people are virtual now, you can just say, hey, I'm going to give the group however many seconds to vote, and let's just make it really quick. So 25 seconds, vote. So all those topics get populated here. You can click on vote. I can't, because I think I made that idea. I think you could. And then it's pretty simple. And that's I start the timer, and then, okay, let's vote. And then it counts, how many votes. And I've hidden some of that. So it's not showing, which is something I also love about Coda, because it hides complexity. You just want to show people what they need. And then once we're done, you can reset and we're ready. So we voted on something, we've got a winner, and let's get organized. So just to be on the practical side, let's say you have a book. You could say, everyone read the book and we'll just get together and discuss during that one session. But it's probably better. They talk about spaced out learning, coming back to something and talking about it again. Or maybe just people don't want to meet for 3 hours. So they want to just meet for 30 minutes or 45 minutes just to get things going each week. And so this is just the easy way to break up the content. So I don't really prescribe how to do that here. I just give some ideas. Based on your topics, divided up the content, divided up by, I think I have some tips somewhere, but, you can divide it up by chapters, or, if it's an article, then maybe think of a series of articles that are related. that you can all talk about. And then once you create that, you can move these around. So Coda's flexible enough to say, okay, we're going to meet on Fridays, right? And then this would actually have the topic. So this could be chapter 1, right? And we're looking at a podcast. And then this would be our session 1. And so after you get out of it, there's your session 1. And so then you can keep doing that, adding other sessions and then dragging them around as you please, based on those preferred dates that people had.
Yeah. And, you know, honestly, one thing that I think is a pattern that you have really made clear for me that I would love to see more people utilize, because I think it's so clever, is how you do the instructions and the here's how. Because, and I can tell that you're a learning and development person, because everybody learns differently and everybody has a different appetite for what they need to know first. Right. Some people might want the whole thing. Like, I want to get it really clear. And some people are like, let me just look. I'm confused. I want to go back. And just by having that collapsible element, you know, it allows you to really respect different styles, which, you know, I could think about in the world of work. You know, if you've got meeting information, the same kind of thing, it allows you to have that way so everyone can kind of get it the way they need it, which I just love that pattern that you've made here. And that it's that kind of repeated over time, revealed just as much as you're looking for. And if you got,
I learned the hard way, Maria.
Hey, isn't that the way
everything was TLDR? So it's like everything was too long. And so then people were like, can you make it simpler? Or there's people like, that's nice. I just want to get in there. It's like, there are people that can just get right into it.
Totally. And I just think it's a great, simple solution that you found for a very human problem, right? Nice.
So I think we're on our last step. So
all right.
We're all set. And this last Meet Weekly, you can you reuse this page over and over because all it is an agenda.
Oh, great.
And as before, so usually the here's how, when you're talking about collapsible, I decided to do 2 levels. The top one is the overview. So the person who just wants to dive in, they can just dive in because hopefully it's intuitive enough, right? The other person's like, wait, what is this? So then it gives them an overview. So you're going to send reminders, you know, some tips, follow your weekly agenda that you created, and you can meet up in person or online, you know, whatever. By the way, with these things, notice that I didn't gray this out. These are things I noticed after, it's like it's never done. So I can just gray it out. And when you publish it, it'll just change, you know, the next time someone sees it. So, so there's this high level instructions, and then there are these more step-by-step. And this part's fun because it's just like, well, I don't know how to do these meetings. I've never facilitated before. It doesn't matter. You can just rotate and say, hey, Maria, this week, why don't you give, you know, you want to facilitate? And so then you would just bring up this page because it's been shared with you. And the coolest thing is you could actually bring it up on your phone.
Yeah, totally.
So I just discovered that not long ago. I don't know if this is actually going to work, and you probably can't see, but if you make a copy of this and download the Coda app, you can actually see all of this as an app, but it looks like an app. So all of a sudden you'll have just this, and then you know how you can do slidey things like the slide gesture, the swipe gesture. You can do that to start and end and whatnot from your phone. That way you can have a laptop free group if you're meeting in person, let's say, and then you could just have your phone, the facilitator, be like, okay, all right, start. All right, let's do a quick recap. All right, time's up. And then let's go to the next section. And the purpose of this is, again, people are busy. And I found that 45 minutes is about right in terms of a lunch and learn type of thing or any group, because then people don't feel like it's taking too much time out of their schedule. You want to schedule it so that it reduces friction. So if your group is super, super busy, you could be like, we're going to meet once a week for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Let's just do it instead of saying, I don't really have time.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because you could just in the duration be like, oh, you know what? We're a 30-minute group. Let's just change the duration of aha to be 10. Is 10. And then let's do this. Let's make it 5, you know? And that it all can be changed and adjusted depending on what you and your group really feel is going to be working for all of you. Nice. Yeah. Very cool.
So like you could change that here and then Coda does the math.
Thank you, Coda. Thank you, Coda, for doing the math for me. Yes.
So these are kind of awkward times, but, you know, I'm trying to keep it perfectly at 45 minutes. So, and then after each meeting, you just clear it all. because these timers go and then they end, and then you could just clear it.
Yeah.
Which I think was one of the widgets that I use from Coda. So I stole this. I'm not that smart.
I always say great artists steal, right? That's what Pablo Picasso said, great artists steal. Same thing goes for Coda templates. If you notice a little pattern that really works for you, go ahead and grab it.
Yeah, that's right. And then lastly, just for fun, I think I saw this speaking of borrowing, we won't say stealing, but borrowing. Someone else had sort of like charts to help people with goals. And so here, the key part of, I don't know if you noticed, but it's let's do this. So the most important thing about learning is taking it into real life. Everyone goes, oh, that was a great talk. I learned so much. But then it's easy to quickly forget it, because if you've learned 20 things from that talk, the likelihood of you actually making some changes and actually doing all of them is probably pretty low. So the concept here is each week, think of one thing that you want to either, stop, continue, or start and do differently this next week. And then the following week, you would get together as a group and share those. And as you create those goals, you can track them here. So, so let's say you have a role, and then you would self-rate yourself. How did you do this last week? And then just to make it simple, what kind of goal was it? What was your goal?
Select list, beautiful. Yeah.
And then you can see, oh, I've been doing pretty well, and it's self-rated, but it's just a way to keep track and keep people engaged so that they'll want to come back each week.
Well, then that's also part of the learning process, right? Is reflecting, going like, man, I really wanted to try this thing, and it was super hard. Like, how have all of you been working with that then? That it allows you to build some of that reflection and support into the group as well. And also kind of having that progress element. Very cool.
That's it. So that's the Scrappy Training Starter Kit.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, you had mentioned that before, it was this idea of like, we have a bunch of videos. Was there a previous set of tools that you used to kind of accomplish the same thing? And what did that look like, if anything at all?
You mean, what were the videos that were used in the company?
More like I'm thinking about what the problem this doc solves, right? Is creating these learning groups. Did you have a previous way that you were doing that before Coda, or was Coda like the first attempt at that? Yeah.
I mean, just the traditional let's meet and chat. There were some teams who were pretty innovative in that the manager was like, hey, let's watch these videos, and then let's have a leaderboard each week and just highlight, I think they called it spotlight. So let's just have a spotlight on this video that we've all agreed to watch as a team. So it was a way to do professional development. And so during the meeting, they just had a time. They carved out a time, like 10 minutes, for someone to share what they learned about, from the video. And they would also keep track of how many videos people watched. So it was a way to encourage everyone on the team. And we're talking about a team of like, 50 people. So I thought that was a great idea. And I actually created a doc for them to share that approach with other teams, because other teams wanted to start doing that. And I think I later translated that into Coda as well.
For sure.
But this was an attempt to say, okay, well, actually it was an attempt to take myself out of the picture. Because a lot of times when you're the sole learning designer at a company, everyone's coming to you like, we want to get some training. Can I meet with you? Can you help us develop training? And this, the attempt to create this learning group approach in Coda was so that I could say, oh yeah, just go to the Coda doc or click on this link and you can form your own group. So trying to create it more of a grassroots learner-owned approach so that I didn't have to get involved.
For sure. Something that I think you really kind of hit on is that so often professional development relies on like, is there one person who can like get it together, right? Yeah. And maybe you're lucky enough to be on that team with that manager who builds it up, but maybe you're not, right? Yeah. So often these things like require one person to do it, but even if you're the one person who's like, I want to try and make this better, like you may not know where to start, and that this doc kind of takes a lot of the chance out of it, right? You don't have to wonder like, am I going to do the right thing? You have this here, and that because you've put all the guardrails in with your own expertise, kind of makes it so that everybody's got a SiNing in their pocket to help make sure that they're being accountable for their learning. Yeah, but I think that that you've really decided like, okay, how do I make it so that everybody gets a good quality experience without needing to have that one person who's clearly the hustler, or me in every room, because I should probably go home and sleep every once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually learned a new concept. I'm not sure who coined it, but it's called lead learner. So that means you don't have to have a learning specialist in your group or your team. Just grab someone who loves to learn and is sort of a lifelong learner and has learning agility, and I think that's one of the members is it's the leader of the group, but I think lead learner is a great term.
Yeah,
because it's saying anyone can start one of these groups if you're sort of the recognized person that loves to learn, is always learning, and you're leading by learning.
Yeah.
As you learn.
You don't need to be the expert or the person who knows all the things. You just need to be the person who wants to know all the things.
That's right.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. So when you were building this doc SiNing, were there any kind of iterations you went through, or did when you start building it kind of stayed this way? Like, were there any changes that you went through?
Yeah, well, one of them I mentioned, I was like, oh, wouldn't it be, I saw another doc that had goals. And so I thought, wouldn't that be cool if each week people could see a nice, pretty chart of how they're doing. And it just creates, engagement, ownership. And so I added this later.
Yeah. Nice.
Also little things like just I'm always organizing. So at first I had all these 1, 2, 3, 4s at the root level.
Sure.
Because I thought, it's simple, right? Right when you open the doc, there's nothing to drop down. But it's when you publish these, you would know this, but when you publish these, so here's the Scrappy Training Starter Kit. When you publish it, it looks like this, and there's top nav. And then I thought, I saw someone else's doc, and I thought, oh, how nice that they put it all here.
Yeah.
Because what happens is it gets chopped off. And so just to kind of improve the experience, I decided to bundle it all together. And I thought, it's not too confusing. So
totally,
I went ahead and did that.
Yeah, and for anybody who's thinking about publishing docs, you have 4 spaces that can go along the top, and then you'll have a little ... if there's anything more off your root level. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm always learning. I can't think of all the things. I mean, I think this was one of those things here in the intro. It's like, oh, they have this outline thing now. So since for longer docs, I just thought, oh, maybe it's a good idea for people to see, because people always want to know before they scroll.
Yes.
You know what they say about like in marketing for websites, it's the top half.
Yep, above the fold.
Above the fold, right? And so here is a similar kind of thing. It's almost above the fold, but it's just like, oh, okay, got it. Oh, there's a backstory. We'll just go there.
Take me there.
I added the outlines later as well.
Very cool. And then as far as when you were working through it, were there any sort of missteps or areas that were kind of confusing when you put it together? You're like, I actually have to
Not
solve
at all.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
No. Yeah. Always. I mean, I'm still learning when it comes to tables and formulas and things like that. So I'm one of those that does just sort of tinker and then get stuck. And I was like, hey, family, I'm going to go back to this after dinner because I got to figure this out. So lots of that, lots of iterating.
Well, and I think, one of the best ways to learn anything really is to tinker with something, right? It doesn't matter what the topic is, but I find for Coda in particular, like just playing, like I'm going to try this. Oh, that's not what I expected to see. I wonder why that is. And taking a look. And then of course, if you ever get stuck, like that's part of why my team is here. Like we're here to help you. You can always get in touch with us, and we love to tinker alongside with you as well.
Yeah.
So SiNing, since you've published 3 docs, for any other folks who are thinking about maybe publishing a doc or starting off with a doc, from scratch, what advice would you give folks who are thinking about kind of translating their insights into a usable Coda doc?
I would say, I mean, those insights are already there, right? I mean, if, and I would assume that you've maybe documented it somewhere already. So if you're a spreadsheet person, you might even have a spreadsheet already with how you organize projects. So Coda actually has a way to use, I think you just copy and paste. I've done it before where I copy and paste, I select the cells in whatever, whether it's Google Slides or, Google Sheets or Excel, and then you just plop it in there and it just sort of translates into Coda world. or maybe it's on a doc. So it's probably somewhere already. So maybe, to reduce friction, it's, I don't know, just open a page and start typing as if it was a Google Doc. And I love, I don't know, I love shortcuts, but I'm always kind of not sure whether to show shortcuts because it sometimes confuse people. But see, so when you just do a / it brings up all these goodies. So you'll be like, oh, I'm going to create my table. And so you can just create that here, or you could just start typing and just saying, this is my first, Coda doc. And then you can play with things like widgets. So they're templates. Yeah. It's like, I want to add, so you noticed earlier I had that topic voting a little bit, and I'm just going to do this real quick and then erase it. So when you do that, it shows, whoa, it's already pre-built. And so one of the best ways to learn is reuse, not, don't feel like you have to do everything from scratch. And then start playing with it, and then peeking at the, behind the scenes, like, how'd they do this? There's a formula. And so you can like open it up and play with that and try to understand it. So you kind of learn as you go.
And, I will say that the / that's my new thing. Anytime I'm teaching somebody Coda from scratch, I actually don't show them anything else except that little / menu now. Because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, do you want to do you want to create a select list? All right, type / and then select list. Go ahead and do it right now, SiNing. Let's just show it up.
Okay.
You do / and then select list. You just type it. Now it's like, oh, cool, select. Or if you're like,
and all of a sudden you've got a little drop down.
Exactly. Or it's like, oh, I wonder if they've got something about recipes. You could do / recipe, that it's one of those things where the / allows you to understand exactly what's available when you're trying to think about what you want. So instead of saying, here's all the stuff you can do, the / menu allows you to kind of drill in at your own pace. A Baja rice bowl does sound really, really great. Salad.
Anyway, so
I'm hungry now.
So you just click on things. I mean, that's what I mean by tinker. It's like, do I want it sorted? Yeah, sure. And then do I want other people to add items? No, I'm gonna just leave it at the ones. And then all of a sudden you've got boom.
Yeah. And you just really, like you said, like everything, just click on it, see what it does. If you don't like it, unclick it. It can all be changeable. Even after you've published a big fancy doc like SiNing has done here, we're making changes to it now that we can then remove, And
then there's these things you can like move them up and down real easy. So everything's an object.
Yes. Love it.
So I'm going to delete this before I forget. They'll be like,
Baja rice. How does that deal with learning and development? I don't know. That's fantastic. Awesome. Well, SiNing, do you want to show off some of the other docs that you've made? Because I do love all 3 of these together. I think
I'll quickly talk about this one.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead
but I won't go into it. This one, at some point, I realized that a lot of schools, high schools, universities were moving into remote and hybrid learning situations. And so I thought, hey, since I'm creating these toolkits, I'll just repurpose one of them and make one just, primarily for educators. Yeah. And so if you're someone who is, a high school teacher or, someone who's a professor, lecturer at a university, this would be a great way to start thinking about how, to move existing learning into a remote setting. And it was pretty much repurposed from the DIY learning design toolkit, which I think I'll walk through instead because I think it probably applies to more people. But at the end of this, what you get is this hybrid learning plan. Cool. It's a wireframe with week 1, week 2, week 3, what considerations for when you're in a hybrid learning situation, and even all the activities. So you could view it by week. And then the duration, what kind of activity would this be? So giving people ideas and a catalyst for giving people ideas on how to make learning more interesting. Yeah. And then it gets into kind of nerdy stuff like how much learning effort based on Bloom's taxonomy and stuff like that. And then creating 3 different types of learning approaches. So in person, maybe we're all safe now. We can all meet or meet in small groups. So these are ways to change it up based on what situation you have. So that's the redesign for remote learning, primarily for academians.
See that being really valuable for parents who all of a sudden like, I gotta homeschool my kid, or like,
I didn't even think of that.
Right? Where it's like, okay, this school year was kind of, unexpected. Now we got summer, like, and summer camps aren't going to be a thing that most kids can go to in the same way as before. But I need to keep my kid busy and engaged. Let's go ahead and create some different fun activities there. Or, maybe we need, as part of our learning in the coming school year, there's going to be some time where the kids are in the school itself, and sometimes where they're remote, like the parents being able to fill in the gaps without having to worry about, doing it wrong or finding or getting bored themselves or getting burnt out themselves. Like it might be a way to be able to pull that together. Very cool. Yeah. Nice.
So that remote learning toolkit was pretty much based on this DIY learning toolkit, which began as, at my last job, it began as a way to basically help teams develop their own learning. As I mentioned before, a lot of times instructional designers or learning experience designers are probably one of a few, or if not the only learning specialist in the team. And so I was just getting a lot of people coming to me saying, hey, can you I want to meet with you. Can you help us develop our training? And I found myself saying the same thing and asking the same questions all the time. And I always want to avoid redundancy. And so I was learning how powerful Coda was. We used it as a learning workbook, as a participant's guide in our virtual classes. So we were running these Zoom only learning experiences before COVID happened, actually. And so we were using Coda for workbooks, and I thought, oh, this is really powerful. And so I had created sort of a learning planner with that. And so after I left, I thought, hey, maybe this is something other people might want to be able to use. So I just started creating, in my mind, version 2.0 of what I had done, and with kind of all the little widgets and things that Coda has added. And so there's 5 steps to this, because this is a little bit more of a deep dive into creating something from scratch. So no longer is it, for both the Scrappy Training Starter Kit and the redesign for remote learning kits, they both rely on something that already exists.
Sure.
Right? And because it's faster. Yeah. This is like, oh, actually, we don't have this training. I want to start creating something. And so I found myself always asking people, okay, so what problem are you trying to solve? Typical design thinking.
Yeah.
What problem are you trying to solve? Yeah. And so this could be used different ways. Again, it would be led by your lead learner, or maybe your learning designer, that your resident designer who knows a thing or two about designing training. And there's versatility in it. The way I used it was I would meet with them, and then I would put down the different ideas that they had, the stakeholders had on what they wanted to achieve. And so then you could even vote on it. And so these are little things I've added because I thought it would be a little bit more interactive. And again, does this look familiar? So then you invite people to join the team, and you're already in. And then I added, it's a little bit, these are a little bit more involved, because maybe it's a 6-week or 9-week development cycle. So we're involving a lot more people. This is not so scrappy, but I think still rapid. I think that I trimmed the needs analysis and sort of the content development, the first phase. I think I trimmed it by half after I started using the Coda docs to work with content development teams, virtual or distributed teams, to create training. Because now you're able to give an assignment and say, hey guys, do this thing while I'm doing something else.
Yeah.
And so, so this looks familiar, right? And then you go to create outcomes. So this is where you get a little more deeper into design, learning design, where, hey, let's create some objectives. They're called learning objectives or learning outcomes. And let's be specific about it. And I think this is a Mad Lib kind of approach, where, if you remember Mad Libs, where you give me a verb and then you make a sentence out of all the words that you ask from people. And so it's audience, behavior, condition, degree. What do you want learners to be able to do? What are some of the conditions? What do you want to base them on? And so I just stuck some here for examples.
Yeah.
And they'll have to do that in 5 words or within 2 minutes. And so after you put in sort of your Mad Lib style words, it creates an outcome.
Yay!
I'm very proud of myself for this one because the formulas.
Ooh, yes. Look at you concatenating and filtering.
So not fun though, because so many times this wasn't working. But you know, what you can do is just say, hey, let's make a sentence out of those things that you asked other people to input.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any questions about that, but
you want to just open that up again just so we can take a closer look?
Oh, sure. You mean this?
Yeah.
Oh, you were geeking out on the formula.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Jeremy is impressed by your formula bits. Yeah.
Oh, well,
so
thank you.
What I think, yes, thank you so much. What I think is really cool is like, even though this formula looks really involved, what I love is that there's actually a simplicity happening underneath it all, right? And it's like, ooh, you can impress your friends, right? Because what we're doing is we're just concatenating, which again is a fancy way of saying put these things together.
Stick them together.
Yeah, just glue them all. And then you're just filtering based on the outcome that you're looking for, and then pulling in that column. Which is great. Ooh, really good idea there, Jeremy. It'd be cool if Coda had a little library of useful formula templates like this, in addition to those little template elements that we see in the examples.
Yeah, upvote on that one.
I agree. Let me talk to the powers that be.
Okay.
But one of the things that we're starting to think about, Jeremy, is this idea of teaching patterns more often than just features, right? Because, you know, like, great, you know what a table is. But like, what are the common patterns that you see when tables are at play? So I will take that note, Jeremy. I love this idea. And having that, yes, let me just make a note so I don't forget, because it might just come out the other end of my ear, you know, formula library of snippets. What I will say, though, is that if anybody finds formulas that you really like, in Coda Docs in the gallery, you can always just copy them as well. And then, like a Mad Lib, insert your own values in those different areas. So it's not as elegant as what you might see in a formula library that hopefully will exist in the future, but something that you can do to at least approximate. Nice. Excellent. Thanks, SiNing.
And I was going to point out that Coda is nice enough to give you a clue whether it worked or not.
Yes.
Because it'll say, okay, this formula you created, it's going to come out with this. And most of the time in the beginning, it's like blank or 0. And I'm like, why is it not working? And so it kind of just gives you a preview of what would happen if that formula actually ran.
That's actually how I taught myself formulas, is just by doing, like, instead of doing like one big formula and then seeing, I would just keep doing it like step at a time and then see what I got.
That's really good advice.
So to be like, oh, okay, great. If I just have the table, that shows me like all the values in the table. Okay, that's not what I want. I want just part of the table. Okay, I'm going to filter
really
this
good idea.
Oh, but I want the number. Count. So that's a way to at least understand more of the anatomy, right? It's kind of like learning any language. You're going to diagram a sentence, and you're going to understand how verbs work. So that's a little pro tip from me there as well.
Yeah, that's great. I learned that too late, because I always want to do it all at once. I was like,
I
want to make this cool thing. It's going to do all these things. And your approach is better, because what happens is you build confidence. You're like, I can code. Duh. Yes. You know, I mean, like, I can do that little simple thing, and it worked.
Yeah, totally. And it took me, again, kind of like how you know, earlier on you were talking about, I made a lot of mistakes with like having a lot of people not read my full documentation. So then I started doing too long didn't reads and like collapsibles. The formula thing was the same thing. I was like, man, okay, I'm keep just going for the whole thing and then getting frustrated. I'm just going to go step by step and see like what's actually happening under the hood. And back in the day when I was teaching myself formulas, we didn't have the ability to just like have that little check your work and the formula pop up. You had to press enter to do it. So, you know, uphill both ways. It was very hard.
And I'm afraid to ruin this, but when you start typing, where can we, is there a way to just slash add a formula?
Yeah, I think you can do formula.
Because what happens is Coda actually gives you hints. So
you can do equals. If you want to start writing, you can just
And so while you start and just say, I don't know, I want to I can't even remember how to spell it. But when you do CONC, then it goes, oh, you want to concatenate. And so then they make it easy, and you could even just tab and be like, yeah, that's what I want. And see, it shows blank. And then you could start adding stuff. And then it doesn't say to do quotes, but I mean, you know, So you can just, but everything is, you'll have to do like, right? Did I do it right? Something like that.
Oh yeah, you want to put the 1 in quotes and the 2. Yeah.
But then, and also it'll like tell you if there's an error because you didn't, oh, see, look, missing quotation mark, or there's too many. And so now it's adding, I see.
Concatenated 1 and 2.
Oh, I see. Okay, got it.
Fun fact,
It's so fun.
if you want to put a space, if you want to open that up again.
Yeah.
And then if you go next to your 1, like in little 1 bit.
Yeah.
And then over 1 more.
Oh.
Like I would get between the 1 and the quotation mark.
Okay, right
and
here.
Very precise. And then just do a space. And then you see.
Oh, right.
So if you want to be like putting together a sentence or a bunch of words, including that space there is one of the things that.
Yeah, so much easier than I was doing quotes around a blank space. And I was like, oh, that's too much.
I mean, which you can do that too. It also works, right? Like to do concatenate that and then a space and then this and that.
Yeah.
This is just my little pro tip for everybody.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, again.
Nice. Tangent.
Oops. Okay. It's going.
And that's why we always have the undo button as well.
Yeah. I have my fingers on the keyboard.
Command Z.
the Command Z. Command Z. Yeah, beautiful. So after I don't know if you want to see any more, but after you create your outcomes, so I have some here that you can see, then you can start developing content because now we have to develop it in this toolkit. So there's a little bit more work to do, but tried to make it easy so that I group all the, anything that you create so that while you're adding topics, so let's add another topic, you can say, well, this topic would have something to do with, hello. Oh, I see, I have to double click. With the second learning outcome. And then it groups it together. That way you can have this overview of all the topics. Because, when you're thinking of ideas, you never know kind of where to plop them. And so it's a nice way to group them together. And what this does is, because in good learning experiences, everything ties back to the learning outcomes. That's going to guide you. It's, it's your North Star for guiding you to develop the entire thing. It's not just, what topics could we throw in there? That would be fun. But you want to make sure that everything is grounded on the learning outcome. And anyway, and we know that like ideas change and things change. So give me an option to delete topic. I added that later because I realized I wanted to make it easier for people to be very spontaneous instead of saying, you have to double click the row, right? Click and delete, and that's just too much work. So using buttons for things that people would want to use and make it easier is a really good idea right inside the.
For sure. And SiNing, we actually have a question from Jeremy, which is, once the learning design is ready, have you used Coda docs while running the actual sessions as well? And if so, what kind of docs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier that, we use slides, Google Slides to, I actually started trying to change the terminology at the company so that it's not slides, because everyone is used to this passive learning of just slides and just watching. And so I called it a storyboard. So it's just a storyboard for instructors to go through the different learning activities. And we use Coda Doc for a number of things: as a manual for training the trainers, as a learner's guide. So it was a digital workbook. And what's great about that is then it takes the load off of the facilitator or the trainer, because now they can just say, go to your workbooks and bring up activity 1 and follow those instructions. I'm going to break you out into breakout rooms and just pick one person in your group to share their workbook to take notes, just to keep everyone engaged. And so that digital workbook, I think, was a game changer because it was also a great way for people to revisit what they learned. And also they can take notes, especially in a virtual learning environment where everyone's on their laptops anyway. So it creates that space, and it saves the facilitator from saying all these instructions, because now you can just say, look at your workbook. I found that great.
And also, SiNing, could you just do / and then type embed for me? Because if you are using storyboards or slideware, one of the things you can do is you can embed those slides in your Coda docs. So if you wanted to have the relevant presentation content there, you can embed it there. Or if you want to embed videos, like here's the video, watch this video and then discuss this with your team. If you've got stuff that's not in Coda natively, you can always use that embed option.
So like you can go to YouTube and stick something in.
Totally.
Nice. And then it'll appear, I think I played it once, it'll appear here, which also works great for the workbook, right? Because you could say, hey, I have a challenge for you, take home assignment, watch this video. And so it'll just be right there in the page instead of just, it's not as interesting as a link, right? So
yeah. Oh, hey, Jeremy's got a really good question. I wonder if anyone has used Coda as an LMS and a way to organize a full course. If you go to my profile in the Coda gallery, I have a simple LMS, which is actually inspired by this doc, coda.io/learn, which is the doc we use to teach people Coda based off that. So let me grab that that template for you. Oh no, SiNing's gonna beat me there. It's got like apples, simple LMS.
You have so many.
I know, I'm such a chatty Cathy. There to go. Simple learning management system. If you scroll up, yeah, right there, right in the middle.
Oh, great.
Yep. If you want to just copy that link, and
we should switch roles, and then I'll ask you about your doc.
Yes, like, oh, Maria, tell me everything. I talk too much anyway. But yes, so Jeremy, I went through many, an LMS vendor review and have built all kinds of things in different LMSs, and I find that sometimes you just need something really, really simple. Particularly if you're dealing with budget constraints and all of that. So this is my build. Yeah.
Whoa, nice. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that later.
Yeah, go ahead and steal it. Steal away. You can always copy that doc. Yeah, excellent. Here, I'll go ahead and grab a link for that too, so we can just have that there. All right, fab. And
time for step 4?
Oh, what was that?
You have time for step 4?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Peek?
Yeah, we got plenty of time. Go for it. We got like 8 minutes.
Okay, so then you're ready to build all the activities. Got all your topics, and again, what I started learning to do was not show a lot of tables, because I think some people love tables and other people are tables averse. It's just like numbers, math, spreadsheets, So then what I try to do is use filters and these drop-down lists so that people can just see what they want to see. So, and also while you're planning learning activities, maybe you don't want to see the entire table of the entire course.
Yeah.
And so you can go topic by topic. And so all the topics get populated here. So they were taken from, and this is why this is a linear approach, because if you don't do the work up here, then you're not going to get these nice topics here.
Yeah, I love how you have everything flow through from page to page to page, that your thought process follows you. I love that. So great.
Yeah. And so I don't know if any of these have 2, but so you add the activity, and this is where you start, again, brainstorming. It helps you focus while you're brainstorming. It's like, oh, well, what activity could you do? And what I love is this type of thing where this is where I was trying to dump my way of thinking when I was consulting other people to develop training. Yeah. Because these might not be front of mind for them, but these are things that I'm always thinking of. It's like, oh, maybe you could. Oh, maybe you could. And so you could add to this list with things that are more specific to your company or your organization. Yeah. Maybe like I know with the medical field, they have simulation training where, they have a mannequin. And so you might want to add sim training or sim exercise. And so this is just kind of it's food for thought, right? While you're brainstorming. And so it's like, oh, I think a role play would be really cool with this. And then you put some notes like maybe a link to something else you've seen, or just some notes like, oh, we could, because when you're brainstorming, ideas just come. And so this allows you to capture all that.
Yeah.
And then you start building.
What you've done here is that this allows people, even if they're not in the same room together, if they're distributed, or if they're, I'm catching 10 minutes here, you're catching 10 minutes there, everybody's able to be contributing, brainstorming, and building all of this really great pool of ideas that can then be translated. So you don't have to have like a kickoff meeting that's 3 hours where everybody's doing all of it. You can get all of that starting even when people are just in those early stages, which I think is just so clever about what you've done here.
And actually, that actually happened. So we had just gone into the work from home mode. Lots was happening, and morale's low. It's like this hiring freeze, and it's like, oh, what are we going to do? And everyone wanted to start learning, and they wanted to get involved in developing learning, but people were busy and just had a hard time focusing. And so when we threw everything into a toolkit in a planner, then this way, just as you said, we would just tell people on their own time when they felt like it go stick in some topics or
Yeah.
some learning activities. And this is the coolest part. I don't know if I can show it here. Oh, I think I can here. So you divvy up the work. And I would say, hey, Maria, can you work on S1, topic one, whatever that is? And, you can open this up so it's a little bigger, or I use Command E, and then they could start developing the outline, because I'm working with content experts, right? And so they can start developing things.
Yeah.
And then I could even say, hey, Maria, I should probably
do your job, Maria.
I'm not gonna actually do it, but it'd be like, hey, Maria, can you take a look at this? Or when do you think this will be ready, or whatever? This is where you can nag people. Or you can even add everyone on here and say, hey guys, would love you to fill out all your topics by such and such a date. And I found this incredibly useful because, people just do better with accountability. So when I was doing this in person with content teams, it wasn't as effective. Because you're on Slack, you're on other messaging channels, you're on email, you're nudging people. But from here, I was able to go, hey guys, and even call out specific people. And then next thing you know it, they were in the doc and they were, filling out whatever needs to be done. And if you have notifications on, it actually will send people an email, whoever you mentioned. And I think I created this automation thing. I don't know if I can do it here, but where I can say, if there's any changes to this doc, send me an email. And I made that a message like, hey, SiNing, someone just updated the content. And then I could go back into Coda and peek. So it was just creating a little robot for me that every so often told me, hey, someone actually is doing something in there. You want to take a look?
Yeah.
And I didn't have to keep coming in here and checking. So I loved that. That was definitely the power of Coda.
Particularly when everybody, in this new distributed context, everybody has very different schedules now too, right? Like I work with a lot of people who are parents. So it's like, well, in the morning I need to do this, or in the afternoon, that's my shift with the kids. Or you've got people who are spread across, lots of different time zones, that you don't always have the luxury of everybody being able to do something simultaneously, but you can get everybody involved at their own pace, and it's all documented here. So you can see that play by play. I love that. So great.
Yes.
Awesome.
And then drum roll, please. You got it ready, steady, go. And then it's this is a view, kind of a blueprint or wireframe of what you've developed. And the cool thing is you could say, oh, actually, this should be here. You could still drag things around. Yeah. And move it around as you please. So, and then from there, you can start building those learning activities. I kind of stop there and just give you a blueprint, and that's the main goal of this toolkit.
Awesome. I love it. So everybody, I've put all of the links to each of these amazing learning docs in our chat. So please feel free, go ahead, snag them, make a copy. I think it's great how SiNing has just really taken all of her expertise and made it just a complete, clear process of how to move forward. And I know myself as a learning and development person too, it's like, oh, it's just great that someone has documented this in a way that's usable and workable. Excellent. So while we're approaching our final minute here, SiNing, is there anything that you would like to plug? Things that you're working on, things that you want to point people to, something you want to brag about, anything?
So I'm in between jobs at the moment, and I'm actually finding, I'm not going to share my my leads tracker, but I've been using Coda. I might clean it up and share it, but I'm agiling my job hunt. So, I create, those of you who are familiar with Agile, it's like I create sprints. So each week is a sprint, and I give myself points for like talking to someone, reaching out to someone, and if I do an assignment or interview, and then it also makes me rest. So after a certain, my stretch goal is like 30 points and 25 points is my regular. So I would just stop and say, hey, I'm gonna take a break and I'm gonna go out to lunch with a friend, or, whatever, take a walk. So that's helped a lot. And just using Coda for things like scripts or templates to, thank you letters or thank you emails.
Oh, cool.
Even during the interview, putting some of my stories and portfolio items that I want to peek at during the interview. So I'm really geeking out on Coda Docs and trying to find any way to use them. Yeah,
and all of you, you've heard it here first. SiNing is looking for a job, and you could have her brain at your company.
Thanks, Maria. Appreciate it.
Of course. I think you're amazing. Excellent. Well, SiNing, I do want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for sharing your brilliance, your insight with us today. I know I always walk away from our conversations feeling inspired and like ready to try something new. So I thank you so much for that.
Likewise.
Thank you everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure. If you have any questions at all, please feel free to get in touch with us at support@coda.io or email me directly, maria@coda.io. Either one works for me. I wish you all a wonderful rest of your week. Have some fun, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, SiNing.
Bye.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye. You too.